the reason I chose Allison as a cover to do, I've hardly ever done that song before, and someone yelled it out at one of my acoustic shows one time, and I kind of played it on a dare. I think nobody expected me to actually know the song, and I've always loved that song. And as I was pointing out to someone earlier, that it's funny that it's such an anthem that represents Elvis Costello as one of the innovators of punk rock, but it's really like a R&B song. It's really like a beautiful soul classic, you know. I was a big fan of Tommy Bolin, not just his work in Deep Purple and the James Gang, but he played on the Billy Cobham Spectrum record, which was a great record. But I loved his solo records, Teaser and Private Eyes. I think those two recordings gave us more of a glimpse of who he was as an artist. I dug his voice, I dug his songwriting, and so when I was contacted about being part of that project, I was happy to get involved. And even though my role as co-producer tended to lean a little bit more toward recruiting other guitar players, it was a fun, creative process, and I was able to invite a bunch of my friends to get involved. Well, Steve Winwood and I have been friends for a few years now, but long before that I was a huge fan, and I would say Steve's one of my all-time favorite singers. All my favorite singers growing up were either black soul singers or black blues singers, and the handful of white singers that I studied were people like Steve and Lowell George and Greg Allman and Paul Rogers and Van Morrison, and people that were really in their own way singing soul music and interpreting soul music and influenced by that. Steve is a rarity in the way that he sounds just as good right now as he did 30 years, 40 years ago. It's unbelievable. There's a possibility that we're a little closer to making another Allman Brothers record than we were, say, a year ago or 2 years ago, only because we have a few more songs. But it's not a big priority in any of our minds, and it is important to us that if we do make another record, it would have to be as good or better than Hitting the Note. So if we feel like we're ready to do that, maybe we'll make another record. Who knows? I tend to have an equal amount of love for great songs, great songwriting, and improvisation. So I'm lucky in the way that Gov't Mule and pretty much all the projects that I'm involved with tend to center around finding a balance of those two things. And I think a cue for that probably started with the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers, both of which are known for their improvisation, but also known for writing great songs. And I think for myself, one without the other would not be nearly as fulfilling. And I think there's a whole audience of people that feel the same way.